Hello gamers, it's your boy Phoenix here, coming at you with a guide for the all-new Destiny 2 raid, the Deep Stone Crypt. Throughout this guide, we'll showcase every single mechanic to every single encounter. We will give you any loadout suggestions to make sure each encounter goes as smoothly as possible, and of course with the lore tabs, any other suggestions and or tidbits that you need to know to make sure you and your team have the best time while doing the raid. Unfortunately, the footage in the background is none of our day one run that got corrupted, so you'll see us streaming a couple days ago some other runs that we did where we were playing around with some subclasses and some other odd weapons, but no worries, we'll make sure you know it all anyway. So sit back, relax, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, as these guys take a lot of effort, and let's get diving right into the Deep Stone Crypt. Alrighty then, let's start this off. So you're going to see you spawn back in the Untitled Ruins, one of the public spaces in Europa. You're going to hop off that platform, you're going to go right into the building in front of you. As you can see, there should be a bunch of ads that have spawned in here. Should be some red bar dregs and vandals, and you're going to find one or two yellow barred captains that have void shields. These ads are no big deal, especially at 1250. There's no time restraint here. Just go ahead and knock them out however you feel like it so you can move on to the actual first part of the raid. Once you kill all these ads, you're going to see this big circular door open up in front of you. This is going to have a staircase down to a cave-like system. Hop on your Sparrow, head on forward, and from here you'll end up at the first official encounter of the Deep Stone Crypt. And let's start with the first official encounter of the Deep Stone Crypt. You're going to see once you come out this door, you're going to end up in this big red bubble. Now, what is this bubble? Well, this bubble is a heat bubble. As you'll see outside the bubble, there is a raging storm going across the face of Europa that is not good for you or your guardian. When you're inside the bubble, you'll see on the bottom left side of your screen, you have a buff called Sheltered from the Storm. This is a good thing. Obviously, it's green, so yay. Once you walk outside the bubble, you'll see that good, happy green buff turns into a very bad red debuff. This debuff is called Frostbite. If you stand out in the storm too long, your Frostbite will count up to 10. Once it reaches 10, it will instantly kill you. If you ever played Destiny 1 and you remember the Lamplight encounter from Crota's End, this is almost the exact same mechanic, except that the higher level you go on Frostbite, it doesn't slow you down like the Weight of the Darkness did back in D1. So you need to, throughout this encounter, go from heat bubble to heat bubble until you reach the end, just like the lamps. There are 6 pikes here when you enter the first area. I recommend you do not bring them with you. There is a triumph connected to the pikes to bring all 6 from the first bubble to the last bubble. However, it's only a triumph, and your Sparrow is far better than the pike is at maneuverability and at speed, so I would at least leave them behind if you're not doing the triumph. In the footage in the background, we will show you the pathing that you will take through all these heat bubbles. However, in between each heat bubble, you'll notice, if you want to do this without watching our path, you want to try this on your own, in between each heat bubble is a little light. There's 2 of these. They look almost like spears sticking out of the ground that are these little glowing lights on top. When you leave your heat bubble, somewhere in the distance, you should see one. Once you reach that, you should see another one somewhere in the distance, probably in a similar direction. Once you reach that, you should also be able to probably figure out and or see the bubble, the next one, from that last light. These are your only indicators of the direction you need to take if you do not know the path. Make sure you look for these and you follow them accordingly. On top of that, you should, if you know where you're going, only reach about Frostbite 5 or 6 before you reach the next bubble. You shouldn't be up to 9 or 10. If you're out in the cold and you're at Frostbite 8, you've probably gone the wrong way already, or maybe you're moving too slow. So keep that in mind. Also important, when you reach each bubble, you'll notice that some ads spawn. Now, you don't need to kill these ads to progress except for the final bubble. However, if you don't know where you're going, or again, you're not watching our path here and you're trying it for yourself, I do recommend stopping for a second and killing these ads. There are some captains that spawn that are yellow bars with shields. You have some red bars that spawn too. If you're not 1250 and you're doing this lower, as I'm sure many Guardians still are, they will muck you up a bit, so be careful. Just go ahead and take them out. No time restraint. That isn't that important, so clear them out at your own pace. This whole encounter isn't timed, by the way, as well, so you have plenty of time on Earth to do anything you'd like to do in this area. So continue forward. After you kill your ads, make sure you find the next heat bubble, kill the ads, next heat bubble, kill the ads. Keep in mind also, there are these little transmats, kind of teleporters in each bubble. This will take you back to the last bubble if necessary, just in case you needed to do something like that. Also keep in mind for the ads as well, if you do die to them, they'll probably set you back to the last bubble you were at, if not even further. So again, be careful with them. Once you reach the last bubble, which you'll see there will be two giant brigs that spawn in front of it. You do need to take these out in order to progress forward. So get in that last bubble. Make sure you fight those brigs, you kill any captains, you kill any red bars that spawn with them. And with that being said, once those are done, your encounter should be finished. Now, hold on a second. Don't go forward yet. You'll see in the background footage, we'll show you where the first of the two hidden chests in this raid are. When you're looking at the door in front of you, you're going to look to the right, you're going to follow the guardians on screen, and they'll jump up around a couple of rocks and they'll get you the hidden chest. This hidden chest in this raid, like every other raid before it, will not get you any new armor or any new weapons that you haven't previously acquired during the raid encounters, but they will re-roll anything that you have already gotten. So if you've already earned the shotgun, the chest piece, and the legs from your first raid, it will give you one of those three things with a new random roll of perks and or stats. It will also, for the first time each week on each character, will give you some spoils of war, which are obviously useful for later in the raid, which we'll explain, and or buying any older raid exotics from the kiosk in the tower if you haven't acquired them yet. So once you grab that chest, go ahead and hop back over the rock down into the bubble, head into the door, make sure all 6 people are there, and then we'll set you down off into another path with your sparrow again that will lead you to the main facility of the Deep Stone Crypt. All right, so now you've reached the main facility of the Deep Stone Crypt. You're just going to go inside the front door and then up to the right up a set of stairs. This will be where your first lore tab is. You're going to see the rest of the guardians on screen. We'll jump around the back of this hallway, and behind this little box, you will find a little data pad looking tablet. Make sure you go ahead and collect that. That'll be the first lore piece. From there, head down the hallway with the rest of your team, and you'll end up at the first lootable encounter within the raid. Okay, let's start with what the second encounter of the Deep Stone Crypt, or what many would consider the first actual encounter. This is the crypt security room. In order to complete this encounter, you must disable it. This will allow you to progress to the next part of the raid. Now, you'll see 3 pillars in this room. We call this room the light room because it's white. The other room across from here will be called dark. These are the 2 most basic callouts for these rooms. We call them pipes and server due to the pipe sticking out of the ground and the server rack sticking out of the ground in the other room. Please feel free to call whatever you like, whatever your team agrees on. Light and dark, we find, tend to be the most common callouts used by most people. There is also a room below this. This room is the basement. You can call this whatever you want. Half the room being on the light side, half the room being on the dark side, with no wall in between. Someone will be down here in this room for most of the encounter, if not pretty much all of it. This room is important. Keep it in mind. We'll come back to it later. So back upstairs now, you'll see that there are, 3 pipes on the light side and 3 on the dark side, these gigantic pipes. In these pipes are fuses. These fuses are your quote-unquote boss. You need to destroy them in order to progress the encounter in a certain order, which we will get to later when we discuss the damage phase. These 6 pipes, when you damage them or destroy them, will lower your boss health bar at the end. When all 6 are destroyed, the encounter will end. In both rooms, you will see these terminals. These are called Augment Terminals. There are white little boxes that have a little yellow light in them. These are important for the rest of the raid. Keep that in mind. You will use them for every encounter moving forward. In one terminal on the light side, you will see a red buff, almost like a red human holding a gear. This is the operator buff. This buff is integral to the entirety of the raid. Do not forget it. This buff allows you to, operate things. You'll see like the keypads down below in the basement, and one of the doors at the far end of the room, there is a keypad on it that will glow red if you are in possession of the buff. This allows you to shoot this keypad, activating whatever it's attached to. There is also another buff within this encounter that will spawn on the dark side. This buff is called Scanner. It's almost a yellow looking butterfly type of shape. This allows you to see things only this person can see. Throughout this encounter, you will be using this as well for the rest of the raid. It is very important. keep it in mind when you learn to use it. Now, between the two rooms, you'll see there are two doors. These doors will shut. So make sure you have 3 people on the light side and 3 people on the dark side. You will not be able to move back and forth except only in very certain times within the encounter. So now you know what the boss is. Now you know how the rooms work. Now we're going to teach you how to do the encounter. When you start, take the operator buff out of the augment terminal. This player is now the operator. On the other side, once the encounter starts, you will see a vandal spawn with the scanner buff. Kill him and take it and get ready to go. You are going to have the most work. Whoever is the scanner will start obviously on the dark side. In these windows below these pillars, you are going to look for 2 separate keypads that will be glowing, 2 on each side. Find the 2 on the dark and then take your scanner buff, stick it into the augment terminal, and have someone on the light side grab the buff accordingly. If, for reference, anytime you put a buff in an augment terminal, it will be you can pick it up at any other augment terminal. That's important for the damage phase. So have someone on light side, pick up the buff, and look for the 2 keypads on the light side through the windows in the floor. Once you have figured out all 4 keypads, the operator should go to the last door where the keypad is, open this up, open up the basement door. By the way, the operator cannot open that door if anyone's in that little chamber with him. Keep that in mind. Open up the basement door, go down, and shoot those keypads as quickly as possible. The operator only has so much time down here before he is burnt to a freaking crisp. So be careful. However, you should have more than enough time to get all 4 keypads. Once this happens, you will hear a kind of ringing noise. This is symboled the start of the damage phase. So what do? The operator downstairs should go back to where he first entered from. He will see an augment terminal there. The operator needs to put his operator buff in, and someone upstairs needs to take the buff out of the terminal. You cannot put another buff in a terminal if one's already in there. Once this happens, the scanner, whoever has the scanner, the player, should put their scanner buff into the terminal, allowing the player downstairs, who's now locked in, by the way, to pick that buff up. Right above where you're standing, you will see 6 little fuses, 3 on the left of that terminal and 3 on the right of that terminal on this little pillar above you. It's now the job of the player down below to call what order in which the 6 tubes upstairs need to be broken. The player should see one of the fuses light up almost glowing yellow, just like the keypads were before. The player then needs to call this out to his team above. Let's say you call light middle. The team should rotate to shoot the middle pillar on the light side and as fast as possible to break it. There's a certain amount of damage you do before the fuse completely pops. Don't worry about having to pump large amount of damage over an extended period of time. Then the scanner will change. One of the other fuses will become active. The operator then the scanner needs to figure out which one is next. He must look around. Is it on the light side or the dark side? And call that out. For the team upstairs, the middle doors will open, allowing the whole team to rotate together. You can do this as a unit. You don't need to. At 1250, you should be able to have 2 or 3 people on either side and break the fuse with little to no effort. Once the person downstairs has called all 6 and the team above has killed all 6 fuses, the counter will end. Quite simple, actually. This encounter really isn't too complex, but there are important pieces of this that you will use going forward for every other part of the encounter. Last tidbit of information before we move forward. In the room upstairs, after a certain amount of time, you will have a servitor spawn on each side. These servitors will lock down the augment terminals, not allowing you to share your buff back and forth. Make sure you take out these servitors quick. They're a major. They have a yellow health bar with a sword or any weapon, to be honest. They really shouldn't be that difficult to destroy, but make sure they're down as soon as you can so that way you have freedom to move around as much as possible while doing this encounter. Once you kill all 6 fuses, the doors will open, the buffs will disappear, the player will come back upstairs, and you can now continue from here to what many people would consider the second true encounter, but would be the third encounter of the raid. Okay, now we're going to show you the second lore collectible within this raid. So, once you move on from the first encounter, second encounter, depending on what you want to call it, you're going to enter a room that has a gigantic Veil statue. This was obviously in Garden, except this one is way bigger. So, you're going to go to the left. You're going to see some pipes up on the roof. You're going to go ahead and follow the footage in the background. You'll hop up onto these pipes, follow the rest of the Guardians about halfway down, and you're going to see the next little data tablet. This is lore collectible number 205. Make sure you pick it up along the way. You don't have to go back and do this twice. From here, head on forward, right to the next encounter. And on to the next encounter, Atrix, the XO Fallen. What you'll realize when you enter the next room, you'll find Atrix at a computer terminal hammering away, doing whatever he's doing, and a cryopod next to him will open up, and guess who's there? Taniks number 47. Taniks will come out of the pod, scream at you, punch the glass a couple times because he's a mad boy, and then will climb away, to be seen later in the raid. We'll get there. Atrix will then teleport away, waiting for you to start the encounter. Now, where you're standing, there'll be a door to your left, a door to your right, and an area in front of you where the glass is. This is your, what we call Earth Arena, and I'll get to why we call that in a second. You're going to want one player on the left side, one player in the middle by the cryopod, and one player on the right. You want 3 people here. Where will the other 3 go? Good question. In the very back of the room, right across from where the cryopod is, you will see 4 tubes. When the encounter starts, you'll see 4 pods come down. 3 Guardians will hop in them and go up to space. Up here, space is a separate arena. There will be 3 Guardians up here as well, 1 on the left, middle, and right. Obviously, you don't need to solidly and really strictly stick to these roles, but make sure that you're covering every portion of the arena you're in. Now, when you start the encounter as well, you will notice Atrix copies himself. There will be 4 copies in each arena. There'll be 4 on Earth, 1 in the middle, 1 on the right, 2 on the left, 1 on the bottom left and top left. These are the callouts we made for them. And then upstairs in space, you will see 4. 1 we call south, right in front of you on the floor. 1 north, which will also be down in the middle, all the way in the back. 1 on the up on the right will be up on the right balcony, and then 1 up on the left balcony. This will be north, south, east, and west. Accordingly, if you know your cardinal directions, great job. So, how does this encounter work? Well, you'll be pleased to find that the operator and the scanner buff from the first encounter, second encounter, but you know, will spawn during this. However, none of them are in the terminals. They will spawn on a Vandal. There's a catch. Operator will only spawn on Earth, and scanner will only spawn in space. So when the encounter starts, Atrix will be shooting at your face because you know he doesn't like you. Eventually, you'll hear a sound, and some servitors will spawn. There will be 3 on Earth. There will be 3 in space. Left, right, middle. Same in both arenas. So when the servitors spawn, the operator buff will spawn as well the scanner buff. You make sure you kill the Vandals and you pick up those buffs. The operator buff will never be used on Earth. There is no point for it. So once you kill the servitors and the augment terminals open up, as you will see, there will also be one on the right, the middle, and the left of Earth. Make sure you throw it in one of them and send it up to the guys above. Again, just like the last one, and as for the rest of the raid, anytime you put a buff in one of the augment terminals, it is reacquirable at any other terminal. So have someone upstairs grab the operator buff and keep the scanner buff up there for now. Now, hold on, keep in mind, when you kill the servitors, all 6 are required to open up the augment terminals. However, after killing all 6 servitors, you will also start the damage phase. So, how does this work? The scanner will start in space, as this will where the damage phase starts. Kill some ads, make sure you clean up the arena, kill the servitors, and you'll see that once you kill all 4 servitors, that the boss will start to do a wipe mechanic. He will stick his arms out, a big energy ball will spawn in the middle of his chest, and he will try to kill you. Now you have about 10 seconds before it wipes you. When in these 10 seconds, the player with the scanner buff must identify which one of the 4 copies is the real Atrix. You must all then jump over to him. Your sword is your best friend on this one. I recommend nothing but the Lament because there is nothing that does it's the same damage that it does. Make sure you all get there, you all go in at the same time, and you do as much damage as possible. You only have a couple seconds to deal damage until he disappears. This copy of Atrix will now be gone from the arena until the next damage phase in which they will all respawn. Space will start this process first, like I said, upstairs. Once you kill your first copy of Atrix, make sure that you immediately send the scanner buff to Earth. Why is this? Right after you do your space damage phase, a couple seconds later, the damage phase will restart again on Earth. The 3 Guardians on Earth must do as much damage to the real Atrix as possible to send his clone away. Then you will repeat this again. Send it back to space. You will damage the boss. Do as much damage as possible. Send it back to Earth. Do as much damage as possible. And then the full damage phase will stop. You will then repeat this process over and over until you knock Atrix down to last stand. Now, hold on. There is a catch. When you kill one of Atrix's clones, the debuff will spawn. It will look like this purple orb. Somebody must pick this orb up. If it doesn't, a little misty version of Atrix will come out of it and wipe your whole team. A Guardian will need to pick this up. Once a Guardian picks this up, they have about 40 seconds before it kills them. So how do you handle this? This is where our friend, the Operator, comes in. Keep in mind, the scanner will do the same thing every time in this raid. The Operator's role, while similar, will constantly change in what it's applied to. So the Operator must shoot the ball off this person's head. Well, how do you do that with 2 down and 2 up? Once you do your Earth damage phase, whoever picks up the first orb should go immediately hop into one of the pods and shoot straight up to space. Do the upstairs damage, the space damage phase again, send it back down to Earth. The 2 on Earth will then do their damage phase. 1 will pick up the orb and go up to space, leaving 1 behind. Now, with 5 people up in space, the Operator has to manage multiple buffs. You don't have to do all 4 at the same time. You can cleanse them before this. However, we did it where we stacked all 4. We cleansed them all at the same time. It was just how we decided to go about it. You'll see on each side of the room, on the top and bottom of the left side and the top and bottom of the right side, there are airlocks. Airlocks with the same data pad that the Operator can operate. When the Operator shoots this pad, the airlock will open. All 4 people with the buff must go stand inside this airlock. All of a sudden, a vacuum will happen that will start sucking on your Guardian. The Operator will have to shoot each of the orbs off all 4 of your heads. Make sure you don't dodge, you don't do anything weird. Just walk straight out of the airlock. The orb should fall off you and go get sucked out the airlock into space. That's how you cleanse your team. Once you do this, have the 2 people that were on Earth get back in the pods, go back down to Earth to assist the last Guardian there. In mind, before this, if someone's buff timer is getting low, you can shoot it off their head, have it fall on the floor, they can pick it back up, resetting the timer. However, you do not need to do this. For on day 1, we did not know this, but once you kill the servitors in the servitor phase, all 4 airlocks will restart and unlock. So you don't have 4 airlocks for the entire encounter, which is what was thought at the time. You can do 2 and 2, 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. And once you go to the next damage phase and kill the servitors, all the airlocks will be open. You can do it again. It's up to you and your team, however you want to handle this. Make sure everyone's on board with the same idea, though. Once you knock Atrix down to last stand mode, everyone on Earth must leave Earth. So as the Operator, make sure all the pods are on Earth. All 4 pods, or little shuttle pod, whatever you want to call them, really don't have a name for them, have the same little Operator terminal next to them. If you shoot them, this will move the pod to the place where it's not. So if it's on Earth, it'll bring it up. If it's in space, it'll bring it down, even if it's shot from space. This is why you always keep the operator in space. Make sure that there are at least 3 pods downstairs for the Earth Guardians. They will hop in and they will come up to space. On Earth, in Last Stand, you will notice that all the copies of Atrix disappear. However, in space, multiple more copies than what you already have will appear. You will have 3 on the left, 3 in the front middle, 3 in the back middle, and 3 on the top right, making it way more complex. Bring all 6 Guardians up to space. The scanner will once again do his job. He has to find which one of those 12 versions of Atrix is the correct one with the buff. When that happens, have your whole team run over and smack the crap out of him. You have 3 chances at this. So you find the first one, damage him right after a second one will start. Find it, damage him. If you do not kill him on the 3rd version, it will wipe your team guaranteed. So make sure you've got a good sword on, make sure you got good damage on, 4th Horseman, whatever you have at the time that's appropriate for burst damage. Slam the crap out of him, make sure you finish him. Once you kill Atrix, in this case, in Last Stand, well, you're done. There's not much more to do after this point. From here, you're going to go on to what is arguably one of the coolest and most memorable jumping puzzles Bungie has ever made, and a very emotional and beautiful one at that. So next we're going to go to the new jumping puzzle Bungie created for this raid called the Descent. This is by far the very best, most beautiful, artistic, and enjoyable part of this raid. Now, unfortunately, the audio I have of us being a bunch of dumbasses in the background isn't going to do it too much of a service, so I'll talk over it and I'll cut it up a little bit and let you guys enjoy it for yourself when you go in the raid. I highly suggest you be quiet and you just enjoy the music. However, during this part, there are also 2 more lore pieces, number 3 and 4, and there will be a hidden chest. I will cut through this a little bit, come back in and show you guys where these are and point them out, so that way you can make sure you grab them on your first way through, and then we'll come back at the 3rd or, quote unquote 4th encounter of the raid. So here is the 2nd and last hidden chest within the raid. You're going to see here, you're going to hop up on a couple of these platforms and you'll end up where the chest is. Again, this chest is the same as the last one. It will not give you anything new. However, it will give you re-rolls of armor and or weapons you have already earned throughout your other encounters. From here, you're going to continue forward and we'll end up at the next lore tab. Now you will see the 3rd of the 5 lore tabs. When you hop up these side platforms on the side of the ship, eventually you're going to reach a point where you're going to want to turn around and you'll see a platform hanging off the bottom of the ship. Go ahead and hop down there, and on the very bottom platform of this little pillar, you're going to see another data pad, just like the rest of them before, that will give you another piece of lore. From here, go on and head back up in the direction you were going, and you'll end up at the 4th lore tab. Now you're going to have the 4th lore tab. This is the 4th of 5, only 1 more to go after this. So once you're done hopping up the platforms and you reach this main area where you'll see a Briggish spawn with a couple of enemies, go ahead and knock those out and turn to the right. When you go there, you're going to walk down this platform along the way. At the very, very end, you will see the 4th data tablet. Go ahead and collect that and then go back to where you were, where the brig was, and move forward through the door. The next lore tabs will be right after this, and that will be the last one to collect for the raid. Now you will have reached the final lore tab within the raid. So once you go through a couple of hallways after the last door, you're going to end up at your point where you see this round tank-looking object on the right side of the room. You're going to go ahead and hop up on that tank, run all the way to the back of it, and then you will see the 5th and final lore tab for the raid. This should give you the triumph for the title. From here, follow the rest of your team, go back to the where you were going, follow through the door, and you will end up at the 3rd encounter, or the 4th, depending on what you want to call it. Now it's time for the 3rd/4th/ whatever encounter you want to call it. People don't like to include the first heat bubble encounter in the count, so, the number's up in the air. So when you enter through the door right by the last lore tab, you're now going to enter an arena where you'll see Taniks up on a catwalk in front of you. To start this encounter, just go ahead and shoot at him. But before you do that, let's explain how this works. So, you are in pretty much a square room at what looks like the main control area of the entire space station. That'll be important in a minute. You'll see why. So, as before, you will have the operator and the scanner buff once again be at play during this encounter. However, there will be a brand new buff that you have not seen before. This buff is called Suppressor. It's blue and has basically what looks like the Deep Stone Crypt symbol as its logo. Each one of these buffs plays an important role yet again during this encounter. Tanix will be roaming around the room shooting at you because once again, he's a very mad boy who doesn't like you very much. So, we'll explain to you how each one of the buffs works throughout this encounter. First, we'll start with Scanner. As you'll see in the front of the room, right below where Tanix is standing, are 4 little boxes. We call them top left, top right, bottom left, and bottom right. These boxes are important as you will need to dunk nuclear cores in those boxes to prevent the entire space station from, well, going nuclear. Same as before, 2 of the boxes will glow a color, being this yellowish holographic look. Those are the 2 boxes in which you need to slam the orbs into. The operator, this time, has a bit of a different job of, once again, shooting those data pads. In the room, you'll find 4 different little gray terminals. These terminals spawn the nuclear cores. 3 spawn at a time. Every so often, you'll hear a sound, and the next quote-unquote phase will begin. However, the operator can stop one of these nuclear cores from spawning. Now, why would he want to do this? Well, you need to slam the cores 6 times in total, not a certain amount of cores. So with 1 less core, it actually makes the process faster. So find which one of those 3 terminals is on. The operator can shoot one of them. One of them will not spawn an orb at all, and the other 2 will drop an orb that will pop up with a little gray symbol on your screen. If somebody does not pick up one of the orbs within the 10-second time limit, it will wipe your team. Then the scanner's job is to find out which 2 of the boxes those orbs will go in. 2 players, preferably those without buffs, will bring the orbs over and slam them into the boxes accordingly. Make sure you call to each other what you're going to do so you're all on the same page. Lastly is Suppressor. This is an important buff that will also take place in the final boss fight, which will be after this. You will see 3 little orbs, like white and yellow, floating in different parts of the arena. 1 and 2 of them are up on the catwalks on the top right and top left by Tanix, and 1 is down right in the middle of the room in front of him. When the nuclear phase starts, these orbs will turn on. You'll see little white circles below them if you have the suppressor buff. You need to go stand in these circles and shoot 1 bullet, literally 1 bullet, at Tanix, and you'll see a white-yellow pulse come out. Do this for all 3 orbs, and you'll see Tanix will become stunned. He will bend over, electricity will flow around him. This will unlock the nuclear boxes that the orbs need to go in. If you do not stun Tanix and you bring the orbs over to the boxes, they will say that they are offline and you cannot deposit them. Now, there is, of course, another catch. This is a mechanic that you will need to keep in mind for this encounter and the next encounter. When you stun Tanix with the suppressor mod or augment, it will disable one of the augments on the playing field randomly. So you shoot Tanix with all 3 orbs, he's suppressed, then you'll find that all of a sudden the operator augment, whoever has it, will get a deactivated augment. They must then need to go to one of the augment terminals within the room. There is one on the far right, one on the far left, and one right in the middle, and deposit their augment, and someone else must pick it up. For the person whose augment was deactivated will have a augment lockout that will last for about 45 seconds, meaning they cannot pick up another augment in that time until it's over. So someone must take over their role. If you played Crown of Sorrow back when that raid was around, this is somewhat similar to the Witch's buff. Make sure, for simplicity's sake, you have a partner who's going to swap this buff from you each and every time. If you have a good enough team that you can just swap it back and forth willy-nilly, then by all means go ahead. But for those who are new to this or don't exactly know what they're doing, have a partner who will make the process easier. So you're going to need to dunk the orbs 6 times in the boxes in order to end this encounter. As you're going along, make sure you're swapping your buffs, make sure you're dunking the orbs, And you will see a little green bar next to each box that will fill up each time you dunk an orb. Once you dunk 6 times and the world is on fire in front of you, and you'll see why when you play the raid, it will be explained. A little gray door in the floor right below where Taniks started will open up. You need to race against Taniks to reach the end of this. Drop through that hole, you will see a long hallway. Just run. It's not some crazy time thing. You'll make it no problem, provided you're not dilly-dallying around, but go. Have a little bit of haste. Taniks will spawn behind you and shoot at you and slowly teleport after you, chasing you. When you reach the end of this hallway, there'll be a door that will be slowly closing. Make sure you get into the room there and wait. The entire space station will quote unquote crash back into Europa. You will have a little moment where everything turns white. You wake up and your guardian is hurt, and then the chest will be in front of you. That will end this encounter entirely. From here, you will continue forward back on to the 4th encounter. All right, it's finally time for the final boss of the Deep Stone Crypt Raid. This will be the last encounter. To begin this, before we go into any mechanics or how the boss works, we want to make sure you have a certain loadout for this. Taniks, you do need ranged burst damage, but also sustained damage. The best loadout we recommend and that we used was Anarchy and any type of special and or kinetic sniper. This being Ikelos V2, Long Shadow, Adored, whatever you feel like will work. Slug shotguns work quite well as well too, we found out during this raid. Make sure you have something like that on, primary or a secondary special to help you clear some ads, because there will be a number of them, and Anarchy. Anarchy makes a big deal during this. Now, this is not contest modifier, so you probably have more options than we did on day one, but Xeno didn't do a great job, neither did Whisper, we found on the first day. They might be far better now, but we still find that Anarchy and any other sniper is by far the best way to damage the boss. You could also throw Cloud Strike in there if you'd want. To start off, you have a massive arena. Let's go over the different positions that you have here to make sense of what you're looking at. You have one side called white, that is the one that is clearly almost covered in snow. You have one that has blue lights that we call blue, and then we have one back where we almost started the raid that we call orange. These aren't that important in terms of the calls for those, but it's good to know them nonetheless. Next, you will see that there are 6 boxes around the arena. These are the same boxes you had in the last encounter, except now there are more. We numbered these clockwise, counting from the white side left. So left white is 1, the right is 2, left of blue is 3, right of blue is 4, left of orange is 5, and right of orange is 6. You can only imagine where we might be going here with this. Now, again, you will have all 3 buffs from the last encounter as well. So before we discuss the buffs, let's discuss the boss. Yeah, Taniks is still a mad boy, except now, since the crash of the space station, he's magically combined with a shank. Ooh, scary. So, Taniks will sit in the middle of the arena shooting you, because again, he's mad, as you should split your team into 2, 2, and 2 on these 3 corners of the arena appropriately. Have 2 on white, have 2 on blue, and have 2 on orange. Taniks shouldn't be much of a bother for you. What will be more of an issue is the ads that spawn in your sides. Make sure throughout this entire encounter, if you do not have a buff, you are on top of keeping these guys clear. There are yellow barred captains. While at 1250 may not be a big deal, they can still mess you up, and they can still mess up your damage phase, especially, which is the last thing you want. This boss has a beefy health pool. So, where do the buffs spawn? They actually spawn in the same place each time. For the 2 people on white, they will always get the operator buff. For the 2 people on blue, they will always get the scanner buff. And for the 2 people on orange, they will always get the suppressor buff. Same thing as the last encounter. You have your buddy with you. Make sure you're swapping your buff back and forth, as the buff will deactivate again when suppressor stuns the boss. We'll get there in a moment. To start this off, Taniks is going to pick a side. He's going to move around a little bit, and then he's going to end up going to one of the 3 sides that you're on, white, blue, or orange. When Tanix is there, he's going to charge up. The shank that he's a part of, the 4 engines, will pop up these little orange cores. You're going to shoot them. Guess what? They're nuclear cores again. Almost the same as the last encounter. Now, there are 2 methods here. We'll explain you our method, and then we'll give you the easier method if you're a team that isn't coordinated or isn't 100% on what they're doing. We shoot all 4 cores off Tanix each time. This means the scanner buff is relatively useless. You don't have to go looking at the boxes. You just dunk the 4 orbs in the 4 boxes that are left. The boxes on the side that Tanix is on will never be the ones you dunk upon. Let me make that clear. They will never be the ones you dunk upon. So it will always be 2 or 4 of the boxes on the other 2 sides. Now, if your team isn't super coordinated on making all the buffs move and picking up 4 cores and having to deal with the crap that you're going to see here in a minute, we recommend you only do 2 at a time, for all 4 will immediately start the damage phase. If you get all 4 in, you will get an extra length of your damage phase. If you do 2, you'll get a little bit less, but it is far safer and easier to manage. Keep in mind that the orbs, like in the last encounter, have a radiation debuff that will count to 10. If it reaches 10, it will kill you. You will drop it, another team will have to pick it up and move forward. Also keep in mind, as you shoot the orbs off of the Tanix's engines, he will spawn these gigantic pillars what look like void light that will, after a few seconds, slam down and kill anyone standing in them. So make sure while you're shooting the orbs off, you are constantly moving and being aware of where these are. So how does this work? As you'll see on all 3 sides, the suppressor has those same little bots again that glow blue and have the little circles under them. When Tanix goes to whatever side he chooses and you shoot off the orbs, you'll have to stun him with suppressor again. Be quick about this, but there is a little caveat to it that you need to understand. When you shoot the cores off Tanix, a 2 or 4, and you stop, he will stand up again, basically, or sit up. I don't know what you call it. He's flying. And he will put out a big purple pulse. This pulse will trap one of the people carrying an orb in a detainment field. Guess what? This is now the operator's job. The operator is waiting to see where the detainment field pops up and then has to shoot it to destroy it accordingly. This will happen twice per time you grab the orbs. If you are on suppressor, remember what I mentioned last time, if you stun Tanix, it will deactivate an augment. So wait till he does 2 detention fields before you stun him. Otherwise, you have a chance of turning off the operator buff for the person using it mid-phase, which could completely screw your team, requiring someone to have to save it. So make sure everyone's on the same page. Wait till he does it twice, then stun him and let everyone go dunk their orbs. Scanner, like we said before, looking for the boxes. However, if you do the 4-ball method, it's not really relevant. You just dunk on all 4 boxes that are left. Operator, again, watching for this detainment field at all times, making sure you get rid of it. Also, during this whole thing, make sure you are swapping your buffs. Once one buff goes down, make sure you immediately swap it so you're always prepared in case something goes wrong. Once you deposit 4 cores from Tanix, whether it be the 4-core or the 2-core method, Tanix will then teleport into the middle of the arena. He's going to sit here for about 15-20 seconds. He's going to chill. No damage will happen yet. If we'll show you in the footage on screen, there's a little piece of metal sticking on the ground that we like to stand next to and drop a Titan bubble for weapons of light before we jump into the damage phase. And I mean jump in. Tanix will spawn a gigantic electric dome that will appear around him. There are 2 layers to this, and there are debris firing around this dome as he goes. This will instantly kill you. So don't just walk in, make sure you hop over that debris. You'll see it. It's not too large. Whip it around in a circle. Now, once you're in the electric dome, it won't do damage to you unless you walk too far forward. There's a clear, distinct line on this outer ring that you can sit in to do damage. And by the way, you can only do damage when in this ring, otherwise he's immune. And if you go too far forward, it will electrocute you and kill you pretty darn quick. So get your bubble, wait till the big shield pops up, hop inside, get your divinity on, get your sniper, whatever you want to use, and lay into this boss. He will, partway through this phase, stop, boop you out of it, and this is why we chose the spot that we start in, because he should boop you right back into the bubble you put. He will bop you out. You have to jump back in and do damage again. In the 4-core method, he will do this 3 times. Jump in, damage, knocked out, jump in, damage, knocked out, jump in, damage, the phase will end. If you do 2 cores, he will only do this twice. You will lose part of your damage phase, but it is far less complex to deal with if you are a new team. Okay. Once you bring Taniks down to final stand, which is the last chunk of his health bar, he will immediately stop his damage phase, but will start teleporting around the map. Be careful while he does this, because he will start raining down those same purple light beams that he did before where you were shooting the orbs off of him that will kill you. And he will do this a lot while he's teleporting. So make sure you're being careful where you stand, you're moving around while trying to lay damage on him. He will teleport between the 3 sections of the map, orange, blue, and white. He will stay there for about 10 to 15 seconds before he teleports again to another random one. He will do this 5 times. After the 5th time of doing it, if you have not finished him off, he will automatically wipe your entire squad when you have to restart the fight again. Once you've done this and you've put Taniks to sleep, the madman that he is, you're done. The raid's over. You've pretty much finished everything. You have done every single encounter, and now it's time for your spoils. You will find the last chest. This is the place where you get the chance of getting the Eyes of Tomorrow rocket launcher, what is by far the most broken weapon probably in the game at the moment, and any other armor or weapons you can get from this point. However, there is an important piece to this, which is a new thing that Bungie has done with their raids. You can use your spoils of war, which you've collected through all the encounters in your hidden chests, and you can, target loot. You can re-roll weapons and armor that you've already gotten, just like the hidden chests do. You get an extra chance, except you basically pay for it. The more you have, the more you can get. This is really good for people who want to farm weapons and armor from this raid that they don't have the best rolls on and that they do want. There are some weapons in this raid that have their own unique perks, only 2 of those weapons, and they are very powerful, and they are pretty sought after. With that being said, that's it. That's the end of the Deep Stone Crypt. I hope you guys enjoyed this guide. I hope it was useful. I hope you got everything you needed out of it to get in that raid, to slam, get those encounters done, and to get that sweet, sweet loot. So Guardians, get out there and go show them who's boss. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and comment down below how useful this guide was for you, or if there's anything you tweak about it. I'm always looking for the feedback. You can catch me on Twitch throughout the week. I stream a couple days a week, starting about 7 p.m. EST. Always catch my updates on Twitter. If I'm going to change the time, I'll put both those links down in the description. You got any questions, you can come ask me live. I'm more than happy to answer. And again, this guy was a lot of fun to make. It was really awesome. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see y'all on the flip. Bye-bye.